On February 8, 2015, a resident of Hefei went to the Minshan Public SCCU Righty Bureau to report a case. Su's wife Wang had come to Minshan alone and then disappeared. She had been out of contact for 4 or 5 days. Wang arrived on February 3 saying she was going to meet a friend surnamed Lu. Her phone stopped working on February 4th. The police quickly found the friend surnamed Lu who said she had indeed received a call from Wang saying she wanted to come over to relax but had never met her in person. The police checked Wang's identity information and confirmed she had arrived in Minshan and also had a check-in record at a hotel. By reviewing the surveillance footage at the hotel's front desk, they found that Wang had arrived alone with a suitcase to check in at 6 o'clock in the afternoon on February 3rd. The room she checked into, room 1453, was a single room, and there was also surveillance in the corridor. Her check-in process went off without a hitch. However, a man appeared at the door of her room in the early morning of February 4th. The hotel was apparently of a decent standard with clear surveillance footage. It showed the man was between 175 and 180 centimeters tall with fully distinguishable facial features. He first rang the doorbell, but no one answered. He knocked on the door once and then the door opened. 10 minutes later, the man walked out of the room. There was a blind spot in the surveillance here, so there was no footage of where he went afterwards. Based on the direction he left, he should have gone downstairs. Strangely, though, he did not appear in the surveillance footage of the hotel lobby. 3 to 5 minutes later, the man returned to Wang's room. He was looking around as he walked over, this time appearing sleepy. He also knocked and entered the room on this occasion. After that, it was not until 1 minute past 2 in the early morning that the door suddenly opened. Surveillance footage showed Wang rushing out of the room. Unfortunately, she failed to get away and was immediately pulled back by a pair of hands behind her. The whole incident lasted only 1 or 2 seconds. Wang was not wearing shoes and her mouth movements suggested she was shouting for help. Everything must have happened in a hasty and chaotic manner. After being pulled back into the room, the door was closed. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning by then, and the incident was so brief that no one else knew what had happened. The police asked Wang's relatives and friends, but none of them said they knew the man. After Wang was pulled back into the room, there was no movement from the room for a long time. It was not until 46 minutes past 3 in the early morning that the door opened again. But he only stuck his head out to check the situation in the corridor before closing the door once more. He came out again a little after 4 o'clock. It was hard to tell if the man was clever or stupid. He was stupid, yet he deliberately put on a hat, seemingly aware of the hotel's surveillance and wanting to hide his face. He was clever, yet he only put on the hat after being captured on camera so many times it was as if he was openly telling everyone he had a guilty conscience. Surveillance footage showed he was holding a room card which he must have taken from Wang. Subsequently, the police traced the nearby surveillance and found that he had gone to an internet cafe. It was nearly 3 o'clock in the morning by then. All the small shops nearby were closed and only the internet cafe was open all night. The internet cafe cashier still remembered the man because he had not come to surf the internet but to buy white liquor. The internet cafe did not have white liquor, but there was beer in the freezer that the owner usually drank, and the man asked to buy some. The cashier refused, however, because it was for the owner's personal use. He then asked what other alcoholic drinks were available, and the cashier took out a bottle of alcoholic beverage. He tried to buy 2 bottles at that time, but said he only had 20 yuan on him, so he left with just 1 bottle. The man was quite ridiculous, yet also calculating. He pulled his hat down, when entering the internet cafe, presumably afraid the cashier would find him odd and put it back on immediately after stepping out. He had no idea it was all useless under the watch of surveillance cameras, just a pointless fuss. He returned to the hotel at 18 minutes past 5 in the early morning. He had knocked to enter every time before, but this time he used the room card to open the door. By then Wang was either being held hostage by him or had already been killed. He left the room again at 43 minutes past 6 in the morning. The sky was gradually lightening by this time. He went to the hotel front desk this time and asked a staff member where there was a large supermarket. Since it was a little after 6 in the morning, the staff member said our T-Mart was probably the only one open. By checking the surveillance footage at our T-Mart, the police confirmed the man had indeed gone there. He then asked a supermarket staff member where he could buy a large suitcase. After that, the man picked out a large suitcase and went to the checkout counter to pay the bill. Just as he was about to pay, he remembered there was surveillance in the supermarket, so he quickly put his hat on again. Really, one has to wonder if all this back and forth was not exhausting for him. What was the point? He had been without the hat the entire time before practically drawing attention to himself on purpose. He returned to his hotel room with the suitcase at 48 minutes past 7 in the morning. He pushed 2 suitcases, a large one and a small one, out of the room a little after 8 o'clock. The small suitcase was Wang's own, and the large one had been empty when he bought it, easy to carry just by lifting it. But surveillance footage clearly showed the large rolling suitcase was extremely heavy. When he left, he could not carry it and had to push it with both hands. He even deliberately tied the large rolling suitcase up with a white rope. Shortly after, 2 hotel staff members came to clean the room. A little while later, the staff members ran out and stopped the man. They had found a lot of women's toiletries left in the room and worried Wang had forgotten them, so they called the man back to confirm. The man only took a makeup bag and a cup at that time, saying he did not want the rest of the items. When the room was cleaned afterwards, a small amount of bloodstains was found on the bed sheet, but the staff members did not pay much attention to it. Wang was never seen again after being pulled back into the room in the middle of the night. Wang's room was on the 14th floor of the building. Apart from the door, there was only one window, and it was impossible for her to leave through any other means. Although the bed sheets were all washed uniformly, the pillow inserts and quilt inserts were basically never replaced. Since the hotel staff had seen bloodstains on the pillow before, the police indeed found a small amount of bloodstains on the pillow insert. After examination and comparison, the bloodstains were confirmed to be Wang's. At 8:30 that morning, the man checked out of the hotel, claiming that his girlfriend had left earlier and had asked him to check out on her behalf. After leaving the hotel, he did not take a taxi but pushed the 2 suitcases alone along the road. He then disappeared near a community hospital. There was a bus stop and a temporary taxi stand there. The police speculated that since he was dragging 2 suitcases, he must have left by taxi. The police finally tracked down the taxi driver who had picked him up that day. The driver had seen him dragging 2 suitcases and had kindly offered to help carry them. But to his surprise, the man suddenly looked extremely panicked and said straight away that he did not need any help. The driver had found it very odd at the time, because most passengers were happy to accept such help and would never have reacted with such panic. He had finally gotten off the taxi at Longxi bus station. Although he had gone to the bus station, the police believed he had not left by bus from there. The Spring Festival was approaching, and security checks at the bus station were extremely strict, meaning all suitcases had to go through inspection, and the man would certainly have dared not do th. There were also many taxis looking for passengers there, and after inquiries, the police indeed found the driver who had taken him then. Unfortunately, even though the police knew the man had finally gone to Langshi, they could not find any more information about him. Wang and her husband ran an accessory shop in Hefei, and Wang was in charge of all the business funds. The police immediately checked Wang's bank accounts and indeed found withdrawal records on 2 bank cards after the incident. Oh my God, he only withdrew 1,000 yuan. What was the point of it all? He had worn a hat, covered his face, and changed his clothes, all to cover his tracks. It was all completely useless. He had switched to another bank card, gone to a different bank, and withdrawn another 1,000 yuan. After all those so-called clever tricks, he had only withdrawn 2,000 yuan in total. Since the man had gone straight to the internet cafe in the early morning, the police speculated that he must have been there before and was therefore familiar with the place. Sure enough, he had come to surf the internet here at nearly 8 o'clock in the evening on February 3rd. He had not committed the crime yet when he came, so he had registered with his own ID card directly. It was through this that the police found out his real identity. As expected, he was a native of Langshi. At this point, Cui Youhua tried to run away again and was arrested by the police on a passenger bus. Wang's ID card and bank cards were found on him. Cui Youhua soon confessed to the crime of killing Wang. The two had met online not long before and had only chatted with each other on the internet. They were around the same age and hit it off well in their chats, so they wanted to meet in person. But both of them were already married, so they made an appointment to meet and have a secret date at a hotel. It was nothing but sheer foolishness. Wang had arrived in Mingshan first. She did not dare to contact her friend first because their meeting was a secret, and with a lot of luggage with her, she had checked into a hotel room by herself. Cui Youhua had arrived later, but instead of checking into a room, he had gone straight to the internet cafe to play. This showed that the man was quite poor and stingy. He would rather spend money to hang out and play at the internet cafe than pay for a hotel room for himself. Later, Wang had sent him a message with the hotel address, and that was when Cui Youhua went there. Wang had a certain sense of caution, so she asked Cui Youhua to register at the hotel front desk as well. She had actually wanted to use this method to keep Cui Youhua in check. After all, he was a man, she was physically weaker, and it was their first meeting in person. But Wang had not expected that although Cui Youhua had left the room, he had not gone to the front desk to register. Instead, he had pretended to wander around outside for a while, then gone back and lied to her, saying he had completed the registration. The two then had sexual intercourse. They then started talking about the hotel room fee. Wang had hoped that Cui Youhua would pay for the room fee. Cui Youhua had been unwilling to do so. It was only natural for a poor and stingy man to refuse, and he had even intended to seduce her first and then rob her of her money. The two then got into an argument over who should pay the hotel room fee. It was at this moment that Cui Youhua saw Wang's wallet and bank cards, and the idea of robbing her came to him. He first robbed her of the more than 1,000 yuan in cash that was in her wallet. He then forced Wang to tell him the password to her bank cards. At first, Wang had lied, but after being beaten by Cui Youhua, she had no choice but to tell him the real password. Cui Youhua had used his mobile phone to verify the password, and Wang had taken the opportunity to run out and scream for help, only to be pulled back by Cui Youhua. Cui Youhua was truly a so-called comedian. He claimed he had been afraid of being framed and that he had panicked. While you committed a robbery, yet you were afraid of being framed by someone, you are so weak and innocent indeed. To prevent Wang from running away again, Cui Youhua tied her up with a hotel bath towel. He then killed Wang with a silk scarf. During this process, blood came out of Wang's mouth and dripped onto the pillow. After killing her, Cui Youhua wanted to buy some alcohol to calm his nerves, so he went to the internet cafe he had been to before, bought a bottle of alcohol, and came back to drink it. After drinking, he began to figure out how to cover up the crime scene. After taking a taxi from Minshan back to Langshi, he buried the suitcases in a desolate wooded area.